Well, welcome everybody to the Salesforce Black and Tech Community Group meeting. In today's session, we are going to be talking about diversify, self-educate, and innovate, expanding your impact in Salesforce and beyond. My name is Tasha Rucker. I'm going to be moderating this session this afternoon. I have been in the Salesforce ecosystem since 2018. I transitioned into this space from a 20 plus year career in higher education. I'm an accidental admin, or when I joined, I was an accidental admin at the time, uh, where I oversaw an org of 65 users. In addition to managing Salesforce, or being the administrator for Salesforce, I was also at the time, it was called Pardot, now called Marketing Cloud Account Engagement admin. So I am very happy to welcome all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. That's actually my next slide. I always like to start things off with gratitude. So thank you everybody for attending this session. Hopefully you'll get a ton out of this. I want to thank our panelists in advance for agreeing to do this session. We've got some questions that we're going to ask, and I'm very sure, I'm positive that they're going to provide you with some amazing feedback during our session. All right. So with that, I am going to um, turn it over to our two panelists to introduce themselves. We have Brian Owens and Najee Henderson. Brian, do you want to go ahead and give an introduction to yourself or
Ladies
introduce
first.
yourself?
I'll let Najee go first.
Okay, ladies first. I love it.
Why, bro? Why? Okay, so hello everyone. How are you? My name is Najee Henderson, and yes, I am a CRM developer. I'm very similar to Tasha. I got my start in Salesforce around 2018. However, I had been coding websites and emails quite some time at that time, maybe about so from since maybe like 2015, 2016 at the time. So I have always been in the marketing space when it comes to programming and coding. Just wasn't so much into it with Salesforce. I was using other platforms at the time. I like what Tasha just said, where she likes to start with gratefulness and gratitude. So I'm very thankful to be here. I'm very glad. I have not been speaking for a while. So this has been really great to kind of start with Tasha and Brian, two people that I'm very familiar with and very comfortable speaking beside. So that's really great, being able to jump in. But I can't wait to answer questions, and I can't wait to talk about all the wonderful topics that we're going to be speaking on today. So that's just a little bit about me. Right.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, I'm an email developer and a cloud page web developer. And most of the time I do a lot of coding for CRMs within Salesforce. So that's just kind of a little bit of what I do. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Najee. Thank you so much for speaking and for your introduction. I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
All right. So I am Brian Owens. I am a product manager for NBC Universal. I help manage our Salesforce org for our global, national, and our local ad sales team. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 5 years now. I guess I'm grateful for doing these type of speaking engagements because it helps me remember how long I've been doing this because the years kind of run together after a while. Um, my background is not in tech. I actually worked in financial services. I was a financial advisor in sales and retail throughout my kind of working career. I'm excited to be here with you all and share some nuggets. I think this topic is very on point right now because for most of us, as Tasha mentioned, like being an accidental admin, a lot of us don't have tech backgrounds, and tech was kind of a pivot for us. And once you get into tech, the pivoting doesn't stop. The expanding your skill set doesn't stop. So that's what we're here to talk about today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. I'm looking forward to our discussion. And in fact, I am going to be asking you the very first question that we have today. So, as a Salesforce product manager, how do you stay ahead of the industry trends outside of Salesforce? And what non-Salesforce skills have been most valuable in your role? You're on mute, Brian.
Thanks. So in my role as a product manager, especially working for NBC, they're in the media industry. I had no idea kind of what media entailed, and I was not familiar with ad sales at all. So what I did, it actually came as a recommendation from one of our leaders at the company. He just told us to start subscribing to blogs for your industry. So if you work in financial services or if you work in sports marketing or whatever the industry that you're in, subscribe to blogs for those industries. If there are regional conferences similar to like a Dreaming event or TDX or something like that in your area, attend those events because that's where you learn about, I guess you learn about the part of your work that doesn't have to do with Salesforce, which from a product manager perspective, that makes you it's a very great skill to have because you're essentially a liaison between your stakeholders and the developers. So being able to understand what your stakeholders are doing every day and kind of the terminology that they use, it helps you advocate for them better and be able to kind of translate their requirement or their ask when talking to the tech team.
Awesome. I'd imagine. Thank you for that, Brian. That was super helpful. Nanji, I have a question for you. So, email marketing is more than just sending, campaigns. What additional skills like coding, analytics, or AI have helped you to thrive in your career?
Well, so you just got to remember that AI is just kind of really getting brought into email marketing. It's not necessarily super new, but it's definitely still a little new for us. So with that being the case, coding has been essential. Being able to be very, very what's the word, transitional with with emails, because emails code is still pretty old. It's actually not anything, it's not very new. And just being able to code for what computers need at this very moment, which is accessibility, and being able to code for things like semantics and coding, those are things that are very, very, very useful. But coding for me, it has been like number one thing because I code all of our emails all the time. That's the main way that we do it. But now with been like number one thing, because like AI coming into the play, into use and coming into effect, being able to just use those prompts, they generate more content and things like that is pretty neat. So that's kind of something that we're exploring more, getting more personalization in subject lines and personalization within content is something that AI has been able to really aid email marketers in and being able to bring in that personalization from the email marketing standpoint. So it's not just about communicating to people as a general. We're really, really honing in on speaking to you as an individual person.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That was really insightful. All right. So, Brian, I have another question for you. So, with so many Salesforce and non-Salesforce certifications that are available, how do you decide which one to pursue, and what strategies would you recommend for someone looking to grow into tech?
I would definitely say be intentional when you're going after certifications. Make sure it makes sense. Um, One thing that I did for both Salesforce and non-Salesforce certifications is I looked at the jobs that I wanted to have. So, for example, I would like to be an enterprise architect. The Atlanta Hawks actually had an enterprise architect role open probably about a year and a half ago. I printed off the job description, read through it to see what type of skills they were looking for, and I started to tailor out my learning path so that 5, 10 years from now, when I have the experience that they're looking for, I also have the skill set that they're looking for. So whether that's certifications, whether that's working knowledge of systems like AWS or ServiceNow, that's the way I think about it. And then also within my day-to-day work, I think about the downstream systems that Salesforce interacts with. I know this is a Salesforce community group meeting, but Salesforce is not an island, as I like to say. In most enterprise settings, Salesforce doesn't do everything. So understanding how those other systems, whether it's SAP, again, AWS, or in Najee's world, looking at what marketing components you use, whether it's Pardot, whether it's Marketing Cloud, or just what that is, can really help you position yourself as a great subject matter expert.
Awesome. And Brian, for those that don't know, what is a did you say systems architect or
Enterprise architect.
enterprise architect? Could you kind of go into a little bit of detail on sort of what that role is, so that they can get an idea of this is what you saw in the job description of, for your future position that you'd like to attain, and looking at certain, certifications or diving more into expertise outside of Salesforce?
Yeah, so business architecture or enterprise architecture, depending on the company, it really takes a strategic look at all the different tech systems that you have within your tech stack, and it says, how do these things work together? Because everyone can probably attest to this. When you're working at a company, a lot of times they will buy products to try to solve a problem, but often those products don't work together. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't even talk to each other. So what an enterprise architect does is they look at what we call a pitch to pay, or you might hear it quote to pay, quote to cash, I'm sorry, looking at the entire life cycle of a customer and saying, all right, they're going to do X, Y, and Z. What systems are they going to interact with? What data do I need to flow from Pardot into Salesforce, into SAP? How am I going to do my integrations? How do I make all of those things mesh together and essentially play nice together?
Awesome. So, I mean, like you mentioned, well, we all know that this is a Salesforce, Trailblazer community group, but, this session is specifically to talk about, those being successful in Salesforce and beyond that. So any type of, tidbits that you can exchange, with our audience here, that will be certainly helpful. So, Naji, I want to turn it over to you with another question. So, with AI, there's a lot of talk about AI, personalization, and automation, or automation evolving rapidly. What's the most exciting trend you see in email marketing, and how should professionals prepare for that career? So it's almost along sort of the same lines as, the question that I asked Brian, but more so about the future of marketing tech.
So right now, I'm going to say AI is doing a profound job at generating content based on something as simple as a question. So what I would say to other marketers is really understand how that chat GPT prompting works. And not just chat GPT, but other AI tools. Understand how you can prompt the query is what we really call it. How you can query the tool so that you can get the best out of it. Because you can ask any of these AI tools to generate an image. But if you say generate an AI, a 3D image versus a 2D image, you're going to get something totally different. And like AI now can generate videos, it can now generate images, it can now generate content for you. So this allows for a lot of personalization. First of all, let's understand email marketing is all about communicating. We are literally talking to people. This is how we are getting to our customers. So AI is helping us to make communicating with our customers so much more personal. It is very, very one-to-one now, as much as it used to be like one to a group and we're speaking to a general whole. Now we're really speaking just to you. We're talking directly to you. We're almost as if having a one-on-one conversation now. And the content that AI can provide with the right prompts and the right queries, we can come up with the right images, we can come up with the right words that will really make someone feel as though we are talking to them specifically. And that's huge. So it's everything. I'll say like a few years ago, Salesforce Marketing Cloud would send emails to people in a general, based on a general time zone of what the best time zone to send is. So maybe everyone in California, the best time to send would be 9 a.m. Some people in Chicago, the best time to send would be maybe around like 7:30 or maybe 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. Now AI can send to Brian at the best time that he opens his emails versus sending to Najee at the best time that I open my emails, which will be at noon because I don't like to wake up in the morning. But Brian might be an early riser. You know what I'm saying? Like just having that type of specifics and personalization to send time optimization in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, that's huge. And now we know that you're not thinking of everyone, you're thinking about me. So that's kind of the really uniqueness that's happening with AI right now. It's really providing an opportunity to just give us that one-on-one relationship more so than feeling like a general whole when it's talking to people and when we're having those communications.
Absolutely. The best marketers know about personalization and how to make that,
It's all about
very
personalization.
effective. That's right. Observing previous purchasing patterns. You bought this, or you might be interested in this products. So that kind of engagement that doesn't require, necessarily a human being like a salesperson actually calling up someone, but it's rather the marketing department soliciting that interest on products. So this is so important. Another thing that I really like that you said that you talked about is, prompting. I think prompting is incredibly important as we start to interact with these AI tools because it's a tool, right? It's not a human. The output is only going to be as good as your prompting input. So garbage in, garbage out, you get some very specific outputs if you're very specific in your input. So think of it that way. So I've been really engaged with role playing and interacting with the AI tools, training those AI models. So I think it's important. So everyone knows about AI, even in the Salesforce ecosystem, Agent Force, and all of these things that you can do with artificial intelligence. But it's going to be very important with the data that you put into the system so that you can achieve the right outcomes. So just a thought there. So Brian, another question for you. So product ownership often requires balancing technical knowledge with leadership skills. What leadership or business skills have helped you most in your career, and how do you develop them?
I would say in a product role, um, those leadership skills and really communication skills are often more important than the technical skills. Uh, what I learned early on in my Salesforce career is that I didn't necessarily want to be like hands-on keyboard. I will leave the coding to Najee because I'm not doing all of that. But I can get in the room and I can talk to people. And I had a really great mentor at Regions Bank. Shout out Melissa. And she had her PMP, and she encouraged me to go get my PMI ACP certification, which like is an agile project manager certification. So she encouraged me to do that. And really, product management is a lot of project management. It's task management, it's managing stakeholder relationships, and it's managing expectations because you're always competing with, your scope creep. There's this concept in project management, they call it I call it the triangle of death, but it's kind of like you have your scope on one angle, you have price on another angle, and then you have time on the third angle. And anytime you pull one of those variables, it puts stress on the others. So learning how to balance those three is really powerful. And it's really good to kind of know that going into it because you can set expectations with your stakeholders. So definitely, if you don't want to be hands on keyboard, learn task management, project management. Those will take you very far.
I'm glad that you mentioned project management, also agile. There's safe training. There's also, professional scrum master, PMP, like you mentioned. So those are some other certifications that our audience could think about pursuing outside of Salesforce. Um, you mentioned communication earlier on, and I want our audience to take away that, in addition to all of the technical skills that we can learn in the Salesforce ecosystem and even beyond that, any other tools that interact with the platform, but then there's also those very important soft skills like communication, for example. I don't even know if they have Toastmasters. I might be
They
able
do. I was
to tell.
actually going to bring that up. At Reason,
Okay.
we had Toastmasters, and that was another thing that she encouraged me to do. And for those of you who don't know, Toastmasters is I guess, professional speaking group that helps you hone your presentation skills. You can kind of pick different learning paths. Think about it, they don't gamify, but kind of think about it like a trailhead path. You can pick different paths to go down, whether you're in sales, whether you're in tech like we are. And it was a great opportunity. I learned a lot just about with cadences and also with being from the South, we have our little draw. So making sure that things don't get lost in translation because we have accents when I'm talking to people who may not be from the South. So those type of things were really helpful by being a part of Toastmasters.
I love
Okay. Awesome. I love that too. Najee, did you have something that you wanted to add?
I was gonna say I love Toastmasters. Toastmasters was a game changer for me. I've always been confident in speaking, but Toastmasters definitely helped me to not say so much and not say and so, and it also helped me to be able to just really feel again, just really confident when I'm speaking. So that's one. But look, there we go. I already said it. Right. So okay, I'm not gonna start. Anyway. So, I wanted to say in relationship to those skill sets of coding and having those more technical skill sets in comparison to those non-technical skill sets, just like Brian and Tasha said, it's really much more needed to have those soft skills. It sounds silly, like, oh, but we need to have the knowledge. Yes, you do need to have the knowledge. But my very, very first job in coding, I failed miserably. They were like, my first job, my first technology job, they were like, you're terrible at coding. You're awful. But your communication skills and your problem solving skills and your ability to listen for understanding, that's going to get you so much further in this company than your coding skills because we can teach anyone how to code. We can't teach people how to communicate well. We can't teach you how to take initiative and how to lead. We can't teach those things. So we would rather hire someone who is teachable, who has good listening skills, because they're going to grasp it. They're going to figure it out and who can solve problems. Those soft skills over someone who has the skills, but they can't communicate and get along with others. They don't know how to listen and they don't know how to take critique. They don't have those things like agile methodologies and things like that. Those are things that really do play a major key role. So I was just going to add that to it. Technical skills or soft skills, believe it or not, you don't need as many technical skills as you need to be able to hone in on like communication and agile and things like that.
Awesome. Another thing that came to mind as I was thinking about what you were saying there is leadership skills. May perhaps we're tasked to, oh, we were good, maybe we got promoted. It could be potentially your first time in a leadership position. Knowing how to manage, motivate, retain talent is incredibly important as a manager. So if you're considering being in a leadership position where you're hands off keyboard, but you want to maybe manage a development team or manage an administrative team, those leadership skills are going to become important. So you're great at knowing the platform. You know how to come up with a quick solution to resolve an issue. But if you have, I wouldn't say issues, but managing people, that requires a different type of skill set. How are you with conflict resolution? When different teams are not agreeing with each other, but you're in a leadership role, and the expectation there is for you to resolve that conflict. So these are also very important skills. I've had the opportunity to, observe areas of opportunity is what I would say, as opposed to weaknesses. But I think that it is very important to gain that insight on how do you become a leader. So, or how do you become an effective leader? How can you manage people? How can you retain the best talent? Is very important. Now, we all know that there are tons of resources in the Salesforce ecosystem. So, maybe at this time, in terms of talent, if you're managing people and you're hiring, you can sort of cherry pick, right? We get that. But on the other hand, as a potential person that may be interviewing for different positions, how can you stay ahead, and how do you market yourself as someone that might be better than another person? So, considering those things and being able to talk about those soft skills, quite a few people know, Salesforce development, but what sets you apart is what I'm saying there. Okay, so that that I think that's a great segue into my next question to Najee. So many marketers and developers are self-taught in some way. What are some go-to resources for continuous learning, and how do you stay ahead in your field? And we're talking about, obviously, items that are outside of Trailhead because there are other ways that we can learn about technology. So I'll turn that over to you.
That's a great question. I am a people person. So I know how I study and I know what works for me. I will go directly to the source. I have never had an issue reaching out to JB, reaching out to you, Tasha, to say, hey, can I get some help? Can I get some support? Reaching out to Brian, people who know what they're doing in the field. And when I have questions, reaching out and asking those questions. But for those who are a little less so quick to be direct like that, don't hesitate to go onto YouTube. YouTube is our friend. And we have a lot of people, a lot of our marketing champions who are out here willing and ready to teach you, show you. We have Kaylin, again, we have JB, we have Jenna, we have a lot of great people who are here to support your growth and want to see you succeed in this field, myself included. We're all here and we all have our specialties. So just understanding what you're looking for and understanding what you're confused about, and then going onto those YouTube channels and just a quick, simple search will probably get you somewhere. But if it doesn't, also reaching out to us in the communities would not be a bad thing. Also, there's Slack channels. We have so many Salesforce Slack channels to get support and ask questions. Because if I don't know something, I promise you somebody else does. I do not claim to be the smartest in marketing, email marketing. Someone else knows this information. So just reach out, ask the question. Someone's going to answer because that's what we're here for. So that's what I mostly do. I generally ask, I just ask. Honestly, I really ask. And if I don't ask, I go online and I'll look it up. Or I go to YouTube. LinkedIn Learning has a really good 30-day trial right now on a lot of their stuff. So feel free to go and look on some things on LinkedIn Learning. That's where I've been studying a lot of my AI, has been on LinkedIn Learning, actually. It's free right now for 30 days. So I've been doing a lot of my studying for AI on LinkedIn Learning. Um, those are my main sources right now, just really looking things up. I don't want to jump into too many Udemy and Coursera's, but I mean, there's some that are really good. Others are kind of just dumps. Hello, cutie. Hello. So some of them are just test dumps, and I don't really necessarily promote that, so I don't want to push that, but that's what I do.
Well, Landon has joined the party. He
Hey,
wanted.
Landon. Hey, kitty.
Hi, Landon. Good to see you again, little guy. Um, some things that I do want to point out. Yeah, the Udemy Coursera's, there are some good ones out there, the plural sites. But let me tell you, I am really finding some helpful resources that are on YouTube. There are people that have a lot of courses that are out there that is completely free, something that you don't have to pay for, because there are folks in the community like us or in other communities like I'm interested in learning more about AWS, and I'm finding that there's an AWS community just like the Salesforce Trailhead community. So maybe there's some opportunity there to learn from those that are not necessarily influencers, but those who are teaching others on YouTube, which is great. I've thought about doing some courses myself, and this is something I intend to work on over time because I do like sharing, that technical knowledge. So that definitely a great point there. One thing that you mentioned about LinkedIn Learning, which used to be Lin, Linda.
It did. It used to be
Yeah.
Linda. You're right.
Linda,
Yeah,
Linda.com.
Linda.
I was
Yep.
like, wasn't it Linda or somebody? LinkedIn. So not sure if you're well, but here in Gwinnett County, Georgia, if you are a member of the library, you actually can get LinkedIn Learning for free. If so, kind of look into your library. Like, listen, I'm old school. I love to go into the library and pick up a book. I really still prefer to have a book as opposed to reading at a screen. I'm looking at a screen all day. So sometimes I definitely, I just like to feel and flip the pages and stuff like that. So I don't even mind going to the bookstore, taking a look at some of the books that they have to offer, check one out. Normally I'm late, got to pay a late fee, end up giving them money anyway. But anyway, don't forget the library is a real place that you can still get educated and get some knowledge on. So thanks for mentioning LinkedIn Learning. I had that thought that popped in my head. So maybe you can get that free if you go to the library. All right. So, Brian, I have a question for you. How do you see AI and automation reshaping the role of the Salesforce professional? I know that there was a ton of thoughts that came out when ChatGPT was rolled out. A lot of people was concerned and whatnot. What should aspiring Salesforce leaders be learning right now to stay relevant? And again, how do you see that reshaping the roles of a Salesforce professional?
Yeah, Naji talked about this a little bit when she was mentioning AI. Understanding prompt generation to me is the key to making yourself stand out in this AI kind of landscape right now. Like if you can understand how to write a solid prompt, um, regardless of what the language model is, that's gonna help you separate yourself. And also understand too. I know AI is the new hot thing, but a lot of enterprise companies aren't hopping on it as fast as you think they are. There's still a lot of concerns about data privacy, about what information the language model is going to absorb. So don't think that just because you work for a large company, they're like, oh man, I have to go learn AI now, because it may take your cyber team a year or two to actually approve that thing. So
It's expensive.
yeah, it's expensive. Plus, all the other things that have to go into it. My biggest recommendation would be like, don't be a late adopter on it. That's not what I'm saying at all. And take advantage of the Salesforce promotion that's going on right now, where up until December the 31st, you can go get the AI certification for free. So I actually went to go do that about a month ago.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you for mentioning that. I think you're very spot on, and you hit the nail on the head there, that not to be delayed in learning. Um don't be a late adopter is what you were saying. I really like what you said there. There might be some other things that you can, prioritize ahead of that. Just to share a personal struggle and a story with folks here. I'm struggling trying to there's so many different technologies that are coming out. And I'm just like, okay, what do I learn next? What's most important? And I think that someone asked a very important question in our Salesforce marketing champion Slack channel. Do I learn all the AI stuff or do I learn data cloud? As a marketer, that was their question. And there was some great conversation there about, perhaps starting with data cloud first and then moving on. But that was, the specific person's use case. But that's just an example of how you would try to prioritize the things that you're studying. And I really want to also go back to what Brian said earlier, looking at future state. What's your ultimate goal? What is that position that you want to achieve? Look at that, the description there on a job posting. Find out what those requirements are, what education, what certifications that you need to receive, and you'll be surprised. Some of them might be outside of the Salesforce ecosystem. So keeping that in mind. All right, so let's see here. I think I have a couple more questions. Um, Najee, next question is for you. So, email marketing sits at the intersection of tech and strategy. How do you balance technical expertise with creativity and business impact?
Well, that's kind of the fun part about it. It's not so serious that we're hardcore developers. We're actually developers with a really fun personality. All of the developers that I know that are sitting in tech, that are sitting in this beautiful MarTech, marketing technology space, we're outgoing and we're loud and we're creative and we're funny and we have these ideas. So, the intersection is, I'm trying to figure out how to answer that question because I want to actually reword that question. Hold on. I'm trying to reword what you asked. Okay. So with that, it's more so an advantage than a disadvantage to be able to do it. The intersection that we have in between both of them is like we get to work with pictures and images, and then we get to find fun and spunky ways to say things in addition to just coding the fun, the uniqueness, the coding the emails and coding the different websites for everyone to just jump in and things like that. It's more about being fun, creative, and spontaneous and spunky than it is about just having like these hardcore coding skills. As much as it is about like, what's a really fun way to say this? Or what's a really enticing way to get someone to click this button, or ooh, which one's better, a square button or a round button? And it's really just being interested in like finding and having the true interest in wanting to know like, okay, well, what is the difference and what's going to be better? Personally, square round is better for me, in my opinion, for buttons. But just kind of having that so the way to really balance the technical expertise is just having the passion and the curiosity to want to be in the middle seat of both. um, I'm the most extroverted developer I know, but the people in my circle who are in my tech, they're really extroverted as well. They're outgoing. They play games and they do gamification, and that's just a little bit of the difference. A lot of the developers that I do know that are just hardcore developers, they're very quiet and they don't have very good communication skills, in my opinion. They're just a little shy. So, just having that little in between, I guess, I think would be just saying you have that passion for connection. Marketing is all about connection. So being able to say, okay, I want to connect with you. That's the passion. It's using technology by means of getting to know other people. So just really, really focusing on that.
Thank you for that. I have another question. I'm going to kind of go off of um, ask not necessarily a loaded question, but I know that you know the answer to this as a marketing developer. So you mentioned before that when you came on platform, you know how to you know how to utilize Marketing Cloud and AMP script, which is that Marketing Cloud developer language. What are some other coding languages that those that aspire to be a marketing developer, what other languages would you encourage them to know about other than AmpScript? AmpScript is, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, but what else do they want to learn?
That's a beautiful question. So yes, learn Liquid. Liquid is for Braze platforms. And one thing about me, and while Salesforce is my number one focus in technology, it does not hurt at all to be platform agnostic because sometimes Salesforce can be oversaturated and you need to be able to work in other areas. It, as Brian so eloquently put it, you got to know how these other tools work. And sometimes there may be a need for migration, working with these other tools. So learn Liquid. Liquid code is used for Shopify websites, which is really neat because then you can go build a Shopify website. But Liquid code is also what the CRM platform Braze uses. Learn it because it's needed. Learn that. Learn SQL because SQL is used for relational databasing when it comes to that segmentation and being able to generate those reports for how your projects are performing. Learn that. And it's not really that difficult. It's really not that hard. It's simple as just reading a book about it or getting asking a few questions. Oh, and by the way, that SQL or SQL, that's all about queries, which queries are used in ChatGPT. It literally all goes around full circle. It's literally all connected to my eyes get big when I'm excited. So I'm just trying to calm down. Hold on.
Mine does too.
I was excited. So you asked a great question. So yeah, learn these other languages because you're going to need them. Learn a little bit of JavaScript. JavaScript is the language of the web for front end. Learn it because everybody needs a little bit of it, and it doesn't ever hurt to learn HTML and CSS. Like seriously, knowing the fundamentals of HTML and CSS is going to get you so far in every single email platform. It does not matter if you are Eloqua, if you are Braze, if you are Salesforce Marketing Cloud, if you are Adobe Campaign, Adobe Classic Campaign. These are all different marketing campaign tools that you can use for building your platforms. Knowing HTML is how you get into all of them. It's a gateway tool to get you into it, and then being able to do that. Now the only thing you need to do is just adjust to the differences. You know, there's a lot of different coding things you can learn. But if you're going to compare with AmpScript, I would definitely learn Liquid. Liquid is
Okay.
a great dynamics tool. And like I said, it benefits you because then you get to be able to do some modifications to Shopify and become a little web developer if you want to, you
You,
know?
you never know when you're on a project what your client is going to require,
Never know.
especially if you're a consultant, so that's something to watch out for. I am very heavy in Salesforce and a marketing cloud account engagement, trying to learn marketing cloud. But I also know that some of my Salesforce clients also use like Marketo. They have decided to use another tool that might be outside of the Salesforce products or SKUs that are out there because they, are currently, heck, they may be stuck in a contract where they have to keep, those licenses for a certain amount of years before they could cross over, to a Salesforce product. So something to keep in mind there. I am involved in a project right now with a client that is using Education Cloud, but their marketing platform is Marketo. And I was just like, I know nothing about Marketo. That this is when I start thinking that I need to make sure that I start to prioritize, other platforms, other skill sets. So as a Salesforce consultant, I can be knowledgeable about, if my clients have questions about the integration, how does the syncing between the two systems work? I would be knowledgeable on knowing that. So thank you for that. And that kind of goes on to what Brian was talking about earlier. Salesforce can plug into a lot of other tools, a lot of other programs, so learning those other skill sets are certainly helpful. So, Brian, my final question for you. Can you share a pivotal, if I can speak, moment in your career where learning a new skill outside of Salesforce helped you to unlock a new opportunity?
Um, I went back to grad school. So I went to go get my master's. I actually graduate next month. So it's been a long 2 year process, but throughout that, I got introduced to AWS. I took a class on that, and when I got certified, I have my cloud practitioner certification there. I took a couple of cybersecurity courses. I'm planning to sit for the Comp Security Plus exam by the end of the year. And then currently I'm taking a class on like financial decision making. So essentially, when projects get presented to us, how do you look at it objectively and determine the total cost of ownership, the return on the investment, which are all tools that will be important when I become a business architect and when I become an enterprise architect, being able to just evaluate those vendors and say, hey, does this make sense for the company? So that was the thing for me. Is taking the steps to go add something else on my plate.
That is amazing. That is amazing. You're giving me tons of ideas. Like my head is exploding between the both of you. I need to sit down and create a learning plan for the year. Really, I do. And I think it's good for anybody in any space to take a look at. Hey, what is that? What do we want to do long term in the next 10 years? Like, where do you want to be?
Yeah, I
Where
just
do you
started
think
mine
tech is?
next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and it's like tech is always evolving. So you're going to have to create that plan to continue to learn and learn new skills and create a learning plan or whatever for yourself. That could be ongoing. We could be learning for years. So being a lifetime learner in this industry is certainly something that you should jump onto. So I have my final question to Najee, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Um, Personal branding is key in today's job market. How have you leveraged platforms like LinkedIn, blogged, or public speaking to establish yourself as an expert?
The first thing you have to do is find your niche, find your thing. I'm obsessed with accessibility. It's my thing, it's my calling. I'm obsessed with diversity, equality, and inclusion. That's my calling. I can't be the data cloud guru. I can't. I'm obsessed with HTML emails too. So yeah, I would like that. I'm obsessed with that. So those are like the things that I love to do. I can't win at everything. This isn't when you're saying the word expertise, you can't be the jack of all trades. You have to be the you got to be the king of one. You got to be the master of one. So for me particularly, find what your thing is because people are going to need help in what your thing is. Don't look to try to be the best at everything. Find your niche. When you find it, then have enough interest and hopefully enough, give to the community to want to share it with the rest of us and share it, write about it. I wrote this post a few years ago. I did an interview with a few visually impaired individuals on what they dealt with during COVID. That was sheer interest. That was because I wanted to know, well, what are you guys going through? Because I'm not visibly impaired. That's curiosity. Have curiosity and post it because somebody else is just as curious as you are. They want to know the same thing. They would like to know, well, how do we solve that problem? And your expertise is going to be the solution to that. So, what I would say is find your niche. Don't be afraid to share. That right there. Be about the community. Feel free to share the information. And people are going to start to say, hey, you know what? You know something about that. That's cool. Let me reach out to you about that. People reach out to me all the time about accessibility now. And I'm like, oh, great, let's talk about it. People reach out about dark mode, they reach out about coding, they reach out about HTML emails because they know that this is something that puts a smile on my face. And also, like, again, with it being your passion and something that you really, truly are connected to, you're not gonna get so bored about it. I mean, yeah, you might get tired of answering people's questions, but you're not going to be tired of it. This is your thing that you provide for other people. So it's actually going to be something you enjoy doing. So yeah, that's what I do. What I do is I find my thing that I'm passionate about and I don't have any issues with sharing. And I share that knowledge and I invite other people to learn with me. Or once I have the information, I put it out there for other people to know, you know? That's what I do. So yeah, my thing, if you're ever looking, accessibility is my jam. I have a pendant that says accessibility is my jam. And HTML emails is my thing. And diversity is my jam. So that's what I do. You
And
know,
I think I remember you did was it a session at TDX or
yeah.
Dreamforce on accessibility?
I did a session. I did one on. I did a session at Dreamforce about accessibility, and then I did one at Dreaming in Color where I actually had people cover their eyes for a few seconds, and then I had them just do a small virtual, not virtual, but just verbal simulation of what it would feel like to have to shop as a visually impaired person, just so that they can just walk in someone else's shoes for a second and helped him to see, you know what, this is pretty difficult. And how and why email marketing with accessibility tailored into those email marketing campaigns is really going to help because they need discounts too. And they pick up a pretty good amount of the spending too. Visually impaired people spend a lot of money. So yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you for talking about that. Brian, I know that you have also been in public speaking. You've done a couple of sessions. I know at Southeast Dreamin'. I'm pretty sure that there's some other conferences. And then you were on that there was a Salesforce
Yeah, the
series
Trailblazer
that you
series.
yeah, there was a Trailblazer series. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about that? What also motivates you? I did say it was, I asked you the last question, but she made a great point. Wanted to give you an opportunity to respond, right? So, talk to us about your journey and how you have been able to do speaking engagements and that sort of thing.
Um, so I'll start with the Trailblazer series. So this was something that Trailhead did, I guess, about 3
3 years.
years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago.
We all got lost after the pandemic. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just like time, like I don't even know. It could have been just like, a few years ago, but then the pandemic was like a couple years. I don't even know. Was it a couple years? I don't
yeah.
it was like a couple years. I don't even know.
I
It
guess
was a mess.
pandemic was technically 5, but yeah. I was like, Landon wasn't born yet, so I was like, it was 3 years ago.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, but
Um, so in that they took myself and 4 other Black Trailblazers, and they did a profile piece on us. I was selected and got an opportunity to do that because I used to work with Tiffany Spencer when Tech Ford did all of their workforce development programs. I was their program director, and we built out certification courses. I see a few names that I remember from some of those courses. Um, and we were able to grow that program from just working at Bethune-Cookman College to working with 6 different HBCUs. We also were able to partner with Salesforce to introduce students at HBCUs to careers in procurement. So we kind of got that program set up. And then probably the biggest highlight of that was my actual Salesforce AE when I was at Regions, because we're in the financial services industry. Discover Card was also her customer. And when she saw the documentary, she got me in touch with the training staff over at Discover Card. So they have a call center in Chapman, Illinois. It's like one of the suburbs of South Chicago. They built a call center there. And one of their IT directors had this great idea to train people from call center reps into Salesforce developers. So we were able to bring in Nadina, which is the first and I think only African American woman who's a CTA. So she actually came in and taught that course for us. So we took six six call center employees and trained them to be Salesforce developers. So that's kind of my give back story. I was also a part of the first Dreaming in Color that we did in Raleigh. I was running around crazy that weekend. I don't remember most of the conference, but it was a good time.
and you've
um,
done some speaking too at Southeast Dreaming.
yep, so I spoke at Southeast Dreaming about just how to navigate a career transition because I am not a technical person, or at least I wouldn't have considered myself a technical person 5 years ago. So I talked a lot about those soft skills that we talked about earlier. And Najee said something about not being a jack of all trades. I've kind of adopted that a little bit. And the CEO at Taco Bell, he had this quote from an interview when he was saying, "Don't be a black belt in everything. Like, be a black belt in one thing and just kick ass in that one thing, and then know a little bit about everything else." And that's what she's talking about with that niche. So, like, figure out what your niche is in the ecosystem, get really, really good at it, and then learn all of these ancillary skills that we're talking about. And that's how you build out your career. Trying to think, what else did you ask me, Tasha?
Oh, I think that was it. The
Okay.
Trailblazer series, and then also the conferences that you spoke at.
Yep. And then I've also I was on a panel at Dreamforce last year when they launched the Salesforce community. I got involved with that because my role technically falls within sales operations. So I was on a panel with some Salesforcers at Dreamforce.
Awesome. Good to hear your experiences from both of you. So that's going to conclude sort of the panel piece of our session today. Thank you so much, Brian and Najee, for sharing all of your valuable knowledge.